My dear friends, let me start by asking you something. How many times have you said yes when your heart screamed no? How many times have you smiled even when someone hurt you? How many times have you carried the weight of being the nice girl even when it crushed your soul? And you know what happens? The world starts thinking, she's okay with it. But deep inside, you know you're not. Today, we're going to talk about something truly life changing. What happens when you stop being the nice girl and start being the real you? Respect starts with you. It's not something you demand from others with anger or expect from the world without effort. It's something you cultivate within yourself first. When you begin to respect who you are, your boundaries, your emotions, your time, your worth, the energy you give out changes, and people around you respond to that shift in ways you can't even imagine. Think about it. How many times have you watched someone walk all over you, and yet you stayed quiet because you didn't want to create a scene or hurt feelings? But the truth is, the moment you let that happen, you quietly teach them that it's okay to treat you that way. Respect is never something you beg for. It is something you command, not by force, but by the way you carry yourself, by the way you value yourself. Imagine a young woman at work. She takes on extra tasks, stays late, skips lunch breaks, and says yes every time someone asks for help, even when she's exhausted. At first, people admire her dedication, but slowly they start to expect it. They don't ask, they just assume she'll always do it. And she burns out silently. One day, she decides to make a small change. When her boss asks her to stay late, she respectfully says, "I've already committed to a personal appointment, but I can help you tomorrow morning." That one moment is powerful, not because of rebellion, but because of self-respect. Slowly, people start valuing her time. She didn't change who she was. She just stopped allowing herself to be treated like she didn't matter. Respecting yourself also means speaking kindly to yourself. We're often our harshest critics, calling ourselves not enough, too much, too weak, or too sensitive. But here's the thing: the way you speak to yourself becomes the standard for how you allow others to speak to you. If you constantly tell yourself you're not good enough, you start accepting behavior from others that reinforces that belief. But when you start saying, "I deserve kindness, I deserve love, I deserve peace," you start attracting situations and people that mirror that energy. One of the biggest parts of self-respect is learning to say no and doing it without guilt. For example, a friend calls you late at night, asking for help with something that isn't urgent. You're tired, you've had a long day, and you need rest. Saying, "I'd love to help you, but can we talk tomorrow instead?" doesn't make you selfish, it makes you wise. Because the truth is, every time you say yes to things that drain you, you're saying no to your own well-being. Respect starts with protecting your energy from things that don't deserve it. There's also something beautiful about the quiet confidence that comes with self-respect. You stop needing to prove yourself to everyone. You stop chasing people who don't value you. You stop over-explaining your decisions to those who never really cared in the first place. You realize that the ones who truly matter will never need an explanation. They'll just understand. Respect is also about honoring your boundaries, the invisible lines that protect your peace and define how people interact with you. When you're clear about what you will and will not tolerate, you make space for healthier, more meaningful connections. You'll find that people either rise to meet your standards or quietly drift away. And while it may hurt to lose some people, what you gain, inner peace and genuine relationships, is worth so much more. Take an example of a woman in a relationship who always puts her partner's needs above her own. She rearranges her schedule, silences her opinions, and even tolerates disrespect just to keep the peace. Over time, resentment builds, and the relationship feels one-sided. One day she decides to speak up. Calmly, without anger, she says, "I love you, but I can't keep feeling like my needs don't matter. This isn't love if I have to lose myself to keep you happy." That's not selfishness, that's self-respect. And whether that relationship grows healthier or ends, she wins because she chose herself. When you begin to respect yourself, you'll notice small shifts in your life. People will start pausing before they speak to you. They'll think twice before taking you for granted, not because you've become mean or cold, but because you've stopped sending out the message that you'll accept less than you deserve. And here's the deeper truth: respecting yourself teaches the world how to respect you. It's like holding up a mirror. What you show yourself is what the world reflects back to you. If you treat yourself as valuable, others will too. If you treat yourself like an afterthought, that's how others will see you. So, respect starts with you. It starts with the little choices: choosing rest when you're tired, choosing silence over arguments that go nowhere, choosing to walk away from spaces where you're not valued, choosing to celebrate yourself even when no one else claps for you. Over time, these small choices build a life where you no longer settle, no longer beg, and no longer shrink yourself to fit into places that were never meant for you. No is not a bad word. For so many of us, that tiny two-letter word feels heavier than a mountain. It feels rude, unkind, even selfish. We think that if we say no, people will stop liking us, stop calling us, or think we are difficult. And so, we keep saying yes. Yes to favors we don't have time for. Yes to plans we don't want to attend. Yes to responsibilities that aren't ours to carry. Slowly, without even realizing it, we drown in a life filled with obligations that don't bring us joy or peace. But here's the truth. Every time you say yes to someone else, while ignoring yourself, you are silently saying no to your own well-being. Think about how often you've been in this situation. Your plate is already full, your energy is running low, but someone calls you and says, "Can you do me a favor?" And before you even think, the word yes slips out of your mouth. You hang up the call, stare at your never-ending to-do list, and feel that familiar frustration bubbling inside you. You didn't want to say yes, but you couldn't say no. And then you carry the resentment like a quiet storm inside you. That resentment, my friend, is your heart whispering the truth. You needed to say no but didn't. Saying no is not about rejecting people, it's about choosing yourself. When you say no, you are creating space for the things that truly matter: your peace, your health, your dreams, and your time. It's like pruning a plant. You cut off the extra branches, Not because you hate the plant, but because you want it to grow healthier and stronger. Saying no is that pruning. It's an act of love, not just for yourself, but for the people around you, because a tired, resentful, overextended you cannot give anyone the best version of yourself. Imagine this: there's a woman named Sarah. She is kind, dependable, and loved by everyone. But because of that, she is also the first person people call when they need something. Need help moving? Call Sarah. Need an extra shift covered? Call Sarah. Need a ride at 2 a.m.? Call Sarah. And every time she says yes, even when she's exhausted, even when she's sacrificing her own needs. One day her health takes a toll and she breaks down. That's when she realizes the cost of never saying no. So she starts small. When someone asks for help that she genuinely cannot give, she gently says, "I'd love to help, but I can't this time." At first, people are surprised, some even get upset, but slowly something shifts. People start respecting her boundaries, and she starts feeling lighter, freer, and more in control of her life. That's the power of no. It is not cruel, it is clarifying. It tells the world where your limits are and reminds you of what truly matters. Sometimes we think that saying no will make people stop loving us. But here's the beautiful truth: the people who genuinely care about you will never make you feel guilty for honoring your limits. And those who walk away when you stop overgiving, they were never truly in your corner to begin with. There's also a subtle dignity in a well-placed no. It teaches you to value your time as much as you value others. It teaches you that your energy is precious and shouldn't be spent on things that drain you. Picture a student who is asked to join every extracurricular activity, every study group, every project. At first, she says yes to all of it. But as her grades drop and her mental health suffers, she realizes she cannot keep going at that pace. She begins to say no to the activities that don't align with her goals, and yes to the things that truly matter to her growth. Suddenly, her life doesn't feel like a chaotic race anymore, it feels purposeful. Saying no also builds confidence. It reminds you that you are in control of your choices. You are no longer living in fear of disappointing others. You stop living your life as a people pleaser and start living it as a person with self-respect. And the beauty of this is that over time, people begin to value your yes more, because they know when you agree to something, it's genuine. You're not doing it out of guilt or obligation. You're doing it because you truly want to. Think of no as a filter that keeps your life clean and your energy focused. Without it, you collect clutter, unnecessary commitments, toxic relationships, and endless exhaustion. With it, you create space for joy, peace, and fulfillment. And isn't that what life is about? The next time you hesitate to say no, remind yourself of this. Saying no to one thing often means saying yes to something better. Saying no to a toxic friendship means saying yes to peace of mind. Saying no to overworking means saying yes to health and rest. Saying no to someone else's expectations means saying yes to your own dreams. And here's the thing: the world won't end when you say no. People might be surprised, they might even complain, but the world keeps turning and slowly they adapt. And more importantly, you adapt. You begin to realize that life feels lighter, freer, and more authentic when you are not weighed down by unnecessary yeses. No is not a wall, it's a doorway to balance, clarity, and self respect. And the moment you walk through it, you'll wonder why you ever thought it was a bad word in the first place. Boundaries are love. These four words carry a depth most people don't realize until they experience it. Many of us grow up thinking that setting boundaries is harsh, selfish, or even unkind. We fear that saying, "This is what I will accept and this is what I won't," will push people away. But here's the truth: boundaries are not walls that keep people out. They are doors that teach people how to enter your life with respect, care, and kindness. Boundaries, when set with love, are one of the purest forms of self respect, and they teach the world how to love you better. Think about a house. Every house has doors, windows, and locks. You wouldn't let just anyone walk in at any time, open your fridge, or sleep in your bed without permission. Not because you're unkind, but because you value your space. The same goes for your life, your time, your emotions, and your energy. Boundaries are the doors to your inner home, and they decide who gets to come in and how far they're allowed to go. Imagine someone named Amen. She's the friend everyone calls when they need something: a ride, a loan, a listening ear. Even when they never check on her in return, she always says yes because she fears losing people. But over time, she feels drained, resentful, and invisible. One day, she decides to draw a line. When a friend calls asking for a favor during a time she's exhausted, she says, "I really wish I could, but I need to rest today." At first, the friend is shocked, maybe even a little upset. But over time, something amazing happens. The people who genuinely care for Amen start respecting her time. They call ahead. They ask if she's available, and they stop assuming she's always there at their convenience. That shift isn't because she became cold. It's because she finally started loving herself enough to set boundaries. Boundaries are not about pushing people away, they're about creating healthier relationships. When you set boundaries, you are saying, "I want you in my life, but I need our connection to be rooted in respect and balance." It's not a rejection of others, it's an affirmation of yourself. Without boundaries, relationships become lopsided. One person gives endlessly while the other takes, often without even realizing the harm they're causing. But when you draw those gentle, clear lines, you create relationships that are healthier, more respectful, and more sustainable. Consider a workplace example. There's an employee, Hamza, who is hardworking and dedicated. Because he never says no, his boss keeps piling on extra tasks. He works late every night, skips family time, and is constantly exhausted. Eventually, he gathers the courage to have a respectful conversation. "I value my role here, but I also need to maintain balance. I can take on this project, but I won't be able to handle the extra assignments this week." That simple act of setting a boundary doesn't make him less committed. In fact, it earns him more respect. His boss starts to realize Hamza's time is valuable and begins to manage his workload more fairly. Boundaries also protect your emotional well-being. Have you ever been around someone whose negativity drains you? Maybe a colleague who constantly complains, a relative who criticizes you, or a friend who only calls when they need something. Without boundaries, you keep absorbing that energy until you're completely depleted. But when you create a healthy distance, Maybe by limiting how often you see them, or by steering conversations away from topics that hurt you. You're not being cruel, you're protecting your peace. And that peace is essential if you want to show up in the world as your best self. One of the most powerful aspects of boundaries is that they attract the right people into your life. When you stand firm in your values and your worth, people who truly respect you will honor your boundaries without question. They'll appreciate the clarity because they know where they stand with you. And those who don't respect your boundaries, they'll drift away. It might hurt at first, but in the long run, you'll realize that losing people who only valued you when you had no limits is actually a gain, not a loss. There's also a profound sense of freedom that comes with boundaries. You stop feeling like a prisoner to other people's expectations. You stop living in fear of disappointing everyone around you. Instead, you start making choices from a place of clarity and self-respect. You begin to understand that saying no to things that harm your peace is actually saying yes to the life you want to live. Setting boundaries takes courage, especially if you've spent your life being the nice one. At first, people might push back. They might say you've changed, that you're selfish, or that you think you're too good for them. But here's what you need to remember. The people who truly love you will adapt. They will understand that your boundaries are not about shutting them out, but about keeping the relationship healthy and respectful. And slowly, something beautiful happens. You stop feeling guilty for protecting your space. You realize that you don't have to be available to everyone all the time. You don't have to explain your every decision. You don't have to apologize for putting yourself first. Because the truth is, you cannot pour into others from an empty cup. By protecting your energy, your time, and your heart, you are actually showing up as a better friend, partner, parent, or colleague, because you're not running on empty anymore. Boundaries are love because they teach you how to honor yourself and how to invite others to honor you too. They are love because they create relationships built on mutual respect, not obligation or guilt. And they are love because they allow you to build a life where your peace, your joy, and your well-being are not negotiable. Stop apologizing for existing. These words might feel simple, almost too simple, but they hold a power that can transform your life. Somewhere along the way, many of us, especially those who have been taught to always be agreeable, polite, and accommodating, picked up this habit of saying, "I'm sorry," for simply being. We apologize for speaking up, for taking up space, for needing help, for having emotions, and even for achieving success. But here's the truth. You don't owe the world an apology for being who you are. Think about how often you've caught yourself saying sorry when there was no need. Someone bumps into you, and before they can even speak, you blurt out, "Oh, I'm sorry." You ask a question in a meeting, and your first instinct is to apologize. "Sorry, I just wanted to check." You cancel a plan because you're unwell, and you find yourself typing, "I'm so sorry, I'm just feeling really sick," as if taking care of your health needs forgiveness. These little moments seem harmless, but over time they create a dangerous pattern. You start to believe that your needs, your voice, your very presence is something that requires justification. Imagine a young woman named Ayesha. She's at work, but brilliant at what she does. But every time she offers a suggestion, she starts with, "I'm sorry, but maybe we could try this." Her colleagues subconsciously pick up on her lack of confidence. Her ideas, though valuable, are often brushed aside. One day, a mentor gently points out, "Ayesha, stop apologizing for having ideas. You belong at this table as much as anyone else." That small shift, dropping the unnecessary "sorry," changes everything. People start listening to her differently because she starts presenting herself differently. Apologies should be reserved for when we have genuinely hurt someone, broken a promise, or made a mistake. But apologizing for things that aren't wrong, for existing, for having boundaries, for needing time, for having emotions, chips away at your sense of self-worth. It teaches you to shrink yourself to make others comfortable, and it signals to the world that you don't see yourself as worthy of the space you're in. There's nothing wrong with being considerate or polite. Politeness is a sign of respect. But there is a big difference between being polite and apologizing for simply being human. When you apologize for things that don't require it, you dilute the value of your words. And worse, you diminish yourself. Take another example, a mother constantly saying sorry to her children. "Sorry, dinner is late." "Sorry, I couldn't make your favorite dish today." "Sorry, I had to work late." Over time, those apologies teach her children that love must always come with guilt, that caring for yourself or having limitations is something to be ashamed of. But when she stops apologizing unnecessarily and starts saying things like, "Dinner took longer today, but I'm happy we're eating together," she shifts the narrative. She models for her children what it looks like to honor yourself without guilt. There is incredible power in replacing those unnecessary apologies with gratitude or confidence. Instead of saying, "Sorry, I'm late," you can say, "Thank you for waiting for me." Instead of, "Sorry, can I ask a question?" try, "I have a question." Instead of, "Sorry for bothering you," try, "Do you have a moment to discuss this?" These are small linguistic changes, but they carry a huge energetic shift. They move you from a place of self-doubt to a place of self-assurance. Learning to stop apologizing for existing also means embracing your achievements without guilt. Have you ever downplayed your success because you didn't want to make others uncomfortable? Maybe you got a promotion and said, "Oh, it's no big deal," or someone complimented you and you responded, "Oh, it was just luck." But every time you do that, you diminish your hard work. You tell yourself and others that you don't deserve to take pride in what you've accomplished. The truth is, you've earned it. Celebrate it. Own it. Because when you own your light, you inspire others to do the same. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice and self-awareness. You'll catch yourself starting to say, "Sorry," out of habit, and that's okay. The goal isn't to be perfect, it's to be intentional. The next time you start to apologize for something you don't need to, pause and ask yourself, have I actually done something wrong? If the answer is no, replace the apology with a statement of gratitude, confidence, or neutrality. Over time, you'll notice not just how others treat you differently, but how you treat yourself differently. And here's the most beautiful part. When you stop apologizing for existing, you create space for authenticity. You show up in the world fully, without shame, without shrinking. People see you for who you are, and you start attracting relationships and opportunities that honor your true self. You stop feeling like you have to earn love or acceptance because you realize you are inherently worthy of both, exactly as you are. There's a quiet strength in a person who knows they belong in every room they walk into, who doesn't apologize for their presence, but also doesn't need to dominate others to prove it. That strength is magnetic. It inspires others to find their own voice, to stop apologizing for their own existence. So, stop apologizing for the things that make you human. Stop apologizing for needing rest, for feeling tired, for saying no, for expressing your opinion, for celebrating your wins, for protecting your peace. Your life is not something you have to excuse to anyone. You are allowed to be here. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to speak, to dream, to grow, to succeed, to fail, to learn, and to live unapologetically. Choose your circle wisely. These words may sound simple, but they carry the weight of an entire life lesson. The people you surround yourself with, your friends, your colleagues, even the family members you choose to keep close, can shape the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you live. Like it or not, your circle influences your energy, your confidence, and even your dreams. That's why choosing the right people is not just a preference, it's a necessity if you want to grow, to heal, and to live a peaceful and purposeful life. Think about your daily interactions. Every conversation you have either feeds your soul or drains it. Every person you spend time with either lifts you higher or pulls you down. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling lighter, inspired, and understood? That's what a healthy circle does. Now think of the opposite. Those interactions where you leave feeling judged, belittled, or simply exhausted. That's what the wrong circle does. The difference between the two can decide whether you live a life of confidence and joy or a life of constant self-doubt and chaos. Imagine someone named Hina. She is bright, full of dreams, and eager to do something meaningful with her life, but the friends she keeps are different. They laugh at her ideas, tell her she's trying too hard, and always pull her into gossip or negativity. Over time, Hina starts doubting herself. She stops sharing her dreams because she's afraid of being mocked. She settles for less because the people around her have taught her that wanting more is unrealistic. One day, she meets a group of people who think differently. They encourage her, support her, and remind her of her worth. Slowly, she begins to grow. Her confidence returns, her energy shifts, and her life begins to look like the one she once only dreamed of. That transformation didn't happen because she changed who she was. It happened because she changed her circle. Your circle determines your standards. If you're surrounded by people who constantly complain, you will start to find things to complain about. If you're around people who make excuses, you'll begin to believe that excuses are acceptable. But if you're around people who push you to grow, to learn, to try again after failure, you'll naturally rise to that level. Energy is contagious, and so is mindset. That's why it's so important to be intentional about the company you keep. Choosing your circle wisely doesn't mean cutting off everyone who has flaws. No one is perfect, and expecting perfection will leave you alone. What it does mean is identifying who truly supports you, who brings out the best in you, and who respects your boundaries. It means recognizing when a relationship is unhealthy, when it's filled with manipulation, judgment, or constant negativity, and having the courage to step away, even if it's painful. There's a saying that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Look at your circle right now. Are they people who inspire you, challenge you, and make you feel valued? Or are they people who drain you, make you question your worth, and keep you stuck in patterns that no longer serve you? That answer will tell you a lot about where your life is headed. Sometimes, the hardest part of choosing your circle is letting go of the wrong people. It hurts to walk away from friendships you've had for years or relationships where you've invested so much of yourself. But here's the truth: keeping the wrong people close will cost you more in the long run. It will cost you your peace, your confidence, and sometimes even your dreams. Letting go isn't about hate or anger, it's about love. Love for yourself and for the life you're trying to build. Consider another example: a young man named Bilal who grew up with friends who constantly skipped class and spent their time criticizing anyone who tried to succeed. For years, he stayed with them out of loyalty, even though he wanted more for himself. Eventually, he realized that staying in that circle was holding him back. So, slowly and quietly, he started spending more time with people who shared his values, people who worked hard, who supported each other, and who believed in growth. Over time, Bilal's life shifted completely. He didn't abandon his old friends out of pride. He simply chose a path that aligned with his goals. That's what choosing your circle wisely looks like. Quiet decisions that change everything. When you find the right circle, something magical happens. You no longer have to explain your worth because they see it. You no longer have to shrink yourself to fit in because they encourage you to take up space. You feel supported when you fail, celebrated when you win, and understood even in your silence. These are the people who remind you of your strength on the days you forget it yourself. Choosing your circle wisely also means being the kind of person you want to attract. If you want supportive, kind, and growth-minded people in your life, you need to embody those qualities yourself. Healthy relationships are a two-way street. You can't expect loyalty, honesty, and kindness if you're not offering the same in return. There will be times when your circle gets smaller as you grow, and that's okay. Growth often requires solitude. But in that space, you will find clarity, and eventually, you'll find the right people who match the person you're becoming. And when that happens, you'll realize that a small circle of genuine, supportive people is far more valuable than a large circle filled with noise and chaos. Life is too short to surround yourself with people who make you doubt your worth or dim your light. Protect your energy. Spend time with people who want to see you win, who celebrate your successes without envy, and who stand by you in your struggles without judgment. These are the people who will help you build a life that feels lighter, fuller, and deeply meaningful. Choosing your circle wisely isn't about shutting people out. It's about making space for the people who truly belong. It's about honoring yourself enough to say, I deserve to be surrounded by love, respect, and positivity. And when you make that choice, your world begins to change quietly, steadily, beautifully. Authenticity attracts abundance. The moment you stop pretending to be who the world expects you to be and start showing up as your real, unfiltered self, life begins to shift in ways that feel almost magical. You stop chasing people, opportunities, and validation, and instead, you start attracting them, not because you're trying harder, but because you're finally aligned with who you truly are. Authenticity is powerful because it frees you. It allows you to live without the heavy mask of pretense, and in that freedom, you create space for the kind of abundance that can't be forced or faked. From a young age, most of us are taught to wear masks. At school, we learn how to fit in by silencing parts of ourselves that others might not approve of. At work, we learn to play a role to seem professional. Even in relationships, we sometimes shrink ourselves just to keep the peace or to be liked. But here's the problem with masks. They may help you fit in, but they never allow you to truly belong. When you live inauthentically, you attract things and people that were never meant for the real you. And that's why life feels so heavy, so exhausting. Imagine someone named Alina. She's funny, creative, and full of life. But she has always felt the need to tone herself down because she fears being judged. She laughs quietly even when something is hilarious. She hides her creative ideas. And she always says yes to things she doesn't want to do just to avoid conflict. But deep down, she feels unseen and unappreciated because no one really knows her, not even her closest friends. One day, Alina decides she's done hiding. She starts sharing her true thoughts, expressing her creativity, and allowing herself to be fully present. At first, some people pull away. They preferred the quieter, more agreeable version of her. But over time, something beautiful happens. New friendships form, opportunities open up, and she feels lighter, happier, and more at peace. That's the power of authenticity. When you show up as your authentic self, you create a filter. The wrong people, the ones who only loved your mask, will fall away. It might feel painful at first, but it's a blessing in disguise because it clears space for the right people and opportunities to find you. The ones who stay will be the ones who love you for who you are, not for the role you played to please them. Authenticity also gives you confidence that can't be shaken. When you're pretending, every opinion, every piece of criticism feels like a threat because you're constantly trying to maintain an image. But when you're authentic, you realize that other people's opinions don't define you. You're no longer afraid of being misunderstood or disliked because you're secure in who you are, and that security radiates. It draws in people and opportunities that align with your truth. Take, for example, someone starting a business. If they try to copy what everyone else is doing just to be accepted, they might find some success, but it will feel empty and exhausting. But if they build a business that reflects their authentic values and passions, they not only feel more fulfilled, but they also attract customers, clients, and partners who share those values. That's abundance, the kind that comes naturally when you're honest about who you are and what you stand for. Being authentic doesn't mean being rude or unkind. It doesn't mean blurting out everything you think or refusing to compromise. True authenticity is about alignment, making sure your actions, words, and choices reflect your values and your truth. It's about living in a way that feels honest and free, without betraying yourself just to fit into someone else's idea of who you should be. Sometimes, the fear of being authentic comes from the fear of rejection. We think, what if they don't like the real me? But here's the thing, when you hide who you are to be accepted, you're rejecting yourself first, and no amount of external approval can fill the emptiness that comes from living a life that isn't truly yours. The right people, the ones meant to walk alongside you, will never require you to be anything other than yourself. Authenticity also opens doors to abundance beyond relationships. It attracts opportunities that align with your true purpose. Think of it like tuning a radio. When you're pretending you're broadcasting on the wrong frequency, the opportunities you want can't even find you. But when you're authentic, your frequency changes. Suddenly, the right jobs, friendships, and experiences seem to appear out of nowhere. It's not luck, it's alignment. There's also incredible peace in living authentically. You no longer waste energy trying to keep up an act or remember which version of yourself you showed to which group of people. You no longer feel the anxiety of wondering if people would still like you, if they really knew you. You're simply you, and that simplicity is liberating. Consider someone in a relationship where they've been pretending to be someone they're not. Maybe they downplay their ambitions, hide their quirks, or suppress their opinions just to keep the other person happy. Over time, that relationship starts to feel suffocating because it's built on an illusion. But when they finally show up as their true self, one of two things happens. The relationship either grows stronger because it's now rooted in honesty, or it ends because the truth reveals incompatibility. Either way, authenticity brings freedom, and with that freedom comes the abundance of genuine love, respect, and peace. Authenticity attracts abundance because it creates clarity about who you are, what you want, and what you deserve. It eliminates the noise of trying to be everything for everyone and allows you to focus on what truly matters. And that focus draws in the people, opportunities, and experiences that are in harmony with your truth. Living authentically is not always easy. It takes courage to peel off the mask and risk being seen. But the reward is a life that feels lighter, fuller, and deeply satisfying. You stop chasing things that were never meant for you and start receiving what was always meant to find you. And that, my friend, is what true abundance feels like. Not just material wealth, but the richness of a life lived fully and freely, exactly as you are.